So we are now live. And I will call the meeting to order. This will be my only time calling the meeting to order. From now on, the chair will do so, but it is 5:05 p.m. And this is the inaugural meeting of the Community Preservation Advisory Board. Welcome, everyone. I've given everyone a packet, and we will be, your agenda is in there, and we will be moving through that agenda. We'll start with introductions. I assume that no one knows anyone, even if you do. So my name is Julie Noble. I am not a voting member of the Community Preservation Advisory Board. I am here as a staff liaison. So no one on the Community Preservation Advisory Board is permitted to be compensated as a voting member. But I have been assigned to be the liaison to all of you. So I will be running the meetings. I will be putting together the agendas with the advice of whatever chair is chosen. I'll be printing any information. I will be processing any of the budgeting stuff on the budgeting end. If there's going to be a web presence of any way, I can manage all of that. Basically, any kind of staff support that is needed would go through me. And so, as I mentioned before, this meeting is being live streamed and is being recorded. And a little bit about me, I'm the sustainability coordinator for the city of Kingston. My actual title is project manager, but I'm holding on to the title sustainability coordinator so it doesn't get lost. And I manage mitigation, adaptation, and resiliency projects for the city, and of late also managing open space preservation. So that's my role here. I am, through my office, for the last 12 years, with the Conservation Advisory Council, we pulled together the natural resources inventory, the open space plan, and community preservation plan, which has led us to where we are today. So I was leading that process through the way. I'm also the staff liaison to the Conservation Advisory Council, the chair of the Climate Smart Kingston Commission. I've worked for the city my whole life, I've been born and raised in the city, and I will be here till the end. So go around.
Hi everyone, my name is Shaniqua Bowden. I work for the Kingston Land Trust, Director of Cultural Engagement and Sustainable Living. We helped to get this proposal passed. We're very happy about it. And Land Trust, if you're not familiar, we do work with conservation here in this urban environment. And
I'm Kara Gentry. I work with the Walkill Valley Land Trust. I've lived in Kingston for, I think, about 13 years now, and tried to be involved with a lot of stuff within the city limits.
My name is Casey Wimbish. I work at the Kingston YMCA Farm Project. My background is in education and in farming. And yeah, this is the first time I've taken an oath to serve the city. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, excited to see what we do.
I'm Eli Duker. I am obviously a Kingston citizen. I work on air quality and water quality issues, and I work at Bard College.
I'm Jen Adams. I'm also from Winkie Land Trust across the river. I'm the director of land stewardship, so that's all the land management work that we do. I'm also on the Conservation Advisory Council with Kevin and Julie. Just joined, I think it was in November, sometime around then. And I'm excited to be here.
I'm Bert Samuelson. I'm a planner with the Ulster County Planning Department. Do a bunch of things. I help out with land development review, work with the community development block grants. I'm the liaison to the Ulster County Agricultural and Farmland Protection Board. And I know this particular board is hoping to get a member of that on the next best thing.
Yes.
And we have something concrete in mind, and at the right time of year, when they're not busy, maybe we can rope someone in from that board. And I also work in the Catskills with the Ashokan Watershed Stream Management Program. And I'm a co-chair of the grants committee. And there's some similarities to this board where there's a dedicated pot of funding. And I work with them on creating a process where when the auditors do the filtration avoidance determination, the FAD, that they can track where the money goes to fund different infrastructure projects, and educational projects in the Catskills and watershed. So that is what I do in a nutshell.
I'm Kevin McAvoy, Kingston Land Trust Board. I'm presently the treasurer. I've had several positions there over the years. I'm also with Julie and Jen on the CAC. I'm on the Climate Smart Commission, but I'm a non-voting member. And I'm on the Landmarks Commission, and I also manage a real estate portfolio in Manhattan and a private foundation down there. So I have some experience running an endowment. And I'm probably missing something else, but I think that's enough for the moment.
Great. Well, welcome everyone. Congratulations on your appointments. We don't have any guests, but this will generally be the agenda format that we'll go through. At this point, we would welcome any guests. If they were here and wanted to make any public comment, they would make public comment for the record. We don't have any guests, there will be no public comment. I'll always ask everyone if there are any modifications to the agenda, so I do need to post per open meetings law, post the agenda at least 72 hours in advance. I tend to do so a week in advance, and I'll send it to you a week in advance. But if in between there happens to be something that comes up that we feel like we want to discuss, we can make a modification to the agenda at that time. So are there any modifications to the agenda? Okay. Then we would review and approve the monthly meeting minutes, of which there are none. So at this point, we would do that. We're not doing that because there are none. So on to board member appointments. In front of you, well, in the packet somewhere, Resolution 45 of 2025 is how you were appointed. This Community Preservation Advisory Board was established, and I'll get into how it was established later, but just so you know your appointments. It's a 7-member board of city residents. And there were specific positions that were called out, including people from Land Trust, a farmer, somebody from the agricultural board, those kind of things. So you're all representing something. 14 people applied, you all were chosen, and the common council and the mayor randomly assigned you either 1 through 7-year terms. It is a very long term, really long. This is New York State legislation that set it up this way. And the kicker is, once your term expires, if you want to reapply, it's automatically 7 more. So if you're a oneer, like Eli, spelled wrong on here, and I see that, I apologize if that was the case.
It's not the first time.
If you reapply, it's 7 more immediately. If you need to leave before your term is up, that's what it is. You have to leave, and then we would refill your position. I don't know, this is all new to me. This is all new to our municipality, so there's going to be a lot of things that we either need to go to the state, the county, other advisory boards, or our legal people to say for interpretations. But like, if you leave your term, does the other person fill out the term? Probably, that kind of thing. So you'll see here, Eli is a 1-year term, Kara is a 2, Jennifer is Jen is a 3, Shaniqua 4, Bert 5, Casey 6, Kevin 7.
Did you guys check how old I am? I'll be older than Ed Ford or something.
So those are the appointments. We did let everyone else know that did apply, that wasn't selected, that, once your terms are up, if you don't want to reapply, that they could be eligible again, but we do accept rolling applications at any time, and people can continue to apply for these positions. Any questions about appointments? Or anyone feel like they want to duke it out with someone else and have us go back to council to change your term? That is not something simple to do, but if you want to do that, it could technically be done. No, great, perfect. Okay, so moving on to the next thing on the agenda would be old business. This is our first meeting, there is no old business yet. It's all new business. So we're going to move on to the review of the open meetings law and protocol. I'll assume that some of you have served on boards before, some of you haven't. If you have not, just Some full disclosure, this board is subject to open meetings law, which means that anyone could come in at any time. Anyone could be watching us at any time. But if they want, and they don't need to sign up or anything to attend, I have the right to reject anyone from the meeting if they are disturbing the meeting in any way. This is one of the reasons why we don't allow people to log in anymore. We had Zoom bombing in the beginning of COVID, so that doesn't happen anymore. But everything that you say is being recorded. You are an appointed official of the city, so that means you should be following, holding yourself to that regard and representing the city as such. The minutes will reflect what happens in the meeting, and in a moment we'll elect a chair and a secretary. And in terms of quorum, we ideally want to have everyone at every meeting, right? That's an ideal for a board. We understand that that's not going to be the case, but in order to hold a meeting, we need to have quorum, which is half of the people appointed plus one. In this case, there are 7, so quorum for us, I would say, is 4, although I guess maybe it's 5. So that's question number 1. What's quorum for 7 people? Does anyone know? Kevin, you know?
I think it's 4.
I would think it's 4 also. We're gonna proceed as though it's 4 until I get a solid answer on that. That also means,
Tricky is when you have vacancies.
right,
Yeah.
in terms of if you feel a little bit under the weather and don't want to be here, but you still want to participate, or you go to Florida for a month and you say you're not on vacation and want to attend a meeting, you could participate in it by Zoom if we have quorum already in the room. So if 4 people are in the room and then 2 people are on Zoom, that can count as quorum. If by the time I post the agenda, you tell me your address and I have to print your address where you will be during the meeting on the agenda. And Kevin does this pretty regularly from New York City. So people can go to his address in New York City and sit there and witness him participating in the meeting. That's what open meetings law at the state level says. So if you're not here, in order for you to count into quorum, I have to have 4 people in the room, and we have to know exactly where you are, and you have to be accessible at that location. It's supposed to be accessible to anyone in a wheelchair, and you have to have the door not open, but people should be able to come and witness you participating in the meeting. So, really important that we are communicating with me well in advance if you can't make it. If we don't have quorum, we have no meeting. So if we get here and sit here, we have 3 people, we don't keep meeting, we will just cancel the meeting. And we'll talk about meeting cadence as we get a little bit further along. We are going to be, like I said, it's on YouTube. You can watch all of them on YouTube moving forward. They are recorded. You are also subject to FOIL. So FOIL is Freedom of Information Law, and that basically means any communications that you have between me and yourself can be foiled. That means that someone can say, hey, I want to see this email that you and Jen Adams had on February 1st, 2021. And then we get that email, and then our corporation counsel will redact anything if it's not public, and that information gets shared. Since you are non-Kingston city staff, anything that we communicate can be foiled. So just be aware that if that is something that you're concerned about, be very mindful when you're communicating with me or amongst each other. Also, by the way, if at least 4 of you are ever in the same room together and talking about business, that's considered a meeting, and that's an open meeting as well. So if you all choose, 4 of you choose to go to a bar after this, we have to announce that location, and people need to be able to come and see that, because that can be considered a quorum of this board. So I would maybe not hang out outside of this, or if you do, then don't tell me that.
What can I ask is the stipulation just not to discuss any business from this board?
I believe that that is the case. I have to get confirmation if it's just literally being in the same place, because we are living in a small town, and there certainly could be the case that it's like,
Yeah.
we could be in the same place at any event. I don't think that it is the case that you're just in a place together. I believe it is that if you're sitting at a bar and you're having to be like, oh, what about this property? Or talking about something related to this, then it would be considered open meetings. That's my interpretation. I don't know if you know any different. Kevin sits on the most boards of anyone that I know, so he's the most likely to
I'm trying to
know.
think where with the landmarks, sometimes we have to do site visits, so, look at the condition of a building, right? And we'll usually stagger it, 2 people will go and then another 2 people, so we never have 3 people together at the same time. No,
And by the way, I don't count it to the form at all. So I don't think it'll be a big deal. I will get clarification on whether it's just presence or discussion. All right, any questions on open meetings law or protocol?
Just a technical question.
Yes.
So, just to avoid, the meeting not reaching quorum.
Yes.
What is the protocol for, communicating if you can't be there or something like that, so that,
So what will happen typically is that probably 5 to 7 days before, I will send out an email that says, hey, FYI, this is a friendly reminder that we're having a Community Preservation Advisory Board meeting. This is the agenda. If you're not gonna be here, please let me know. As soon as you possibly know, let me know.
okay,
Other boards that I have, people sometimes let me know the same day. I despise when that happens, but it happens. And then I will go online, because our agenda is also posted online. And I will go and I'll add their address or whatever, or things will change. I get it, things change the day of, and it happens. We might even just get here and people might not know that they're not gonna be here. You can text me, you can email me, I'll give you my cell phone when we're not live. You don't need to tell the whole world group, but you can. All of you have received an email from me, you're all on that email. If the email that you put into your application that I'm using currently is not the email that you would prefer me to use, you need to let me know what email you would prefer me to use, and then any of us would be using that email for communications. And so yeah, you can let me know, okay, however you need to know. And like, if you know, once we set up the cadence for the meetings, if you know, oh, like in November, no way I'm gonna be there, let me know as far in advance as possible, and we need to move a meeting, we can. If we need to move a meeting, we can absolutely do that, we need to just let the clerk know at least 48 hours in advance that the meeting's been moved, and we need to meet in a public place. And the public place is typically this building. We could technically meet in another municipal building, like in Murphy Center or the Hodge or Roundup Center, but we can't meet like in a park. Any other questions about open meetings or protocol? All right, so as a formality, and we maybe don't know each other at all and don't know anyone's skill set whatsoever, but we should be electing a chair and a secretary. The role of the chair would be to run the meetings. So what I'm doing right now will be done by the chair. I will just be sitting here and making sure we don't have technical issues, and I'll be bringing information that you need to be provided, but you will be operating the meeting. And we will do this election once a year in January, and the secretary would be taking notes. So technically recording any actions of the board. It is being recorded so people can, and it's live, so people can see and hear every single word that we're saying, but the minutes are the formal record of what proceedings happened at the meeting. And we will be following generally Julie's version of Robert's rules, which is as much Robert's rules as we could possibly figure out that Julie knows in a little bit of her understanding, loose Robert's rules. Yeah, basically putting together the minutes and then presenting the minutes to the board in the week before the following meeting. Everyone will review those minutes, and at the next meeting, you would vote to approve or disapprove the meeting minutes, and then it would go onto the record, which would go onto the city's website. So, are there any questions about the roles of chair and secretary? They're pretty standard roles. There wouldn't be any expectation that the chair or the secretary would be dealing with the community. Most of the work of the Community Preservation Fund is going to be happening through my office. So like all of the surveying, all of the dealing with homeowners or like landowners, all of that is not happening with this board. This is literally just an advisory board, not just, but it is an advisory board. So there's no expectations of the chair or the secretary or any of you to be doing any of the actual, like, on the ground land stewardship work. Does anyone want to make a nomination for chair or secretary?
Kevin, how do you feel about being secretary?
I could do that. I don't want to be the chair, and I probably shouldn't because I'm on so many boards.
Would you be comfortable being secretary?
Unless somebody else wants to do it.
Who's the secretary of almost every other board, and he's a Mason secretary.
The minutes are very thorough.
With this board, I would think the minutes would be a little more concise and, yeah, because
So I nominate Kevin.
Second.
Are there any other nominations for secretary? Any discussion? All in favor for Kevin McAvoy as secretary?
Aye.
I guess I'll.
No one's opposed or abstention or abstaining? Great.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin. Is there anyone that would like to make a motion to nominate someone for chair? Or self-nomination?
Does anybody want to do?
Casey.
No.
I'll
I didn't know that. I just, you want to.
Draw straw.
nominate myself.
Okay, so there's a nomination for Bert. Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any other nominations for chair? Is there any discussion?
I'd rather see how things go.
Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor of nominating Bert Samuelson for chair for the Community Preservation Advisory Board?
Aye.
All right, no one is opposed or abstaining. Thank you very much, Bert. All right, very good. So, thank you for doing that. Kevin, if you're willing to start, I know you've already been taking, you've already been doing.
It's already done.
Who's the suit? Great. All right, so let's talk about the overview of the Community Preservation Plan and the fund. This all started way back in like 2010, 2012, when the city developed the natural resources inventory. A copy of that is there. The natural resources inventory was done by a consultant, John Mickelson, who my office brought in. We mapped out, either we created new maps or we gathered existing data for creating maps of major resources around the city. So that would be everything from like forests, tree cover, to streams, wetlands, parks, whatever, impervious surfaces, all different things. That was strictly objective. This is what you have. If it's not here, you don't have it. And it was natural, spaces, recreational, and cultural, and historic, which was permitted under the natural resources inventory. From there, we hired Behan Planning, who did our open space plan. And I don't have a million copies of that, but if you want to see it, there's a copy here. The open space plan went through and said, we give more criteria to specific places and specific attributes, like wetlands have more of a priority, and buffers around surface water has more of a priority, and biologically important areas have more importance, and steep slopes and farmland soils and all these different things. And from that came a heat map. Where it is. Basically a heat map, so we took the different layers in the city, all these different attributes, and overlaid them over one another to create the open space plan. Layers. Basically, what areas have the most intense amount of resources. And so the darker an area, the more of those criteria it had. So it's not unheard of to think that the core urban center of Kingston had fewer natural resources, and the perimeter, which is more suburban, has more resources. This plan did not get to the parcel level. It looked at it kind of holistically. However, it did create goals, and those goals are the open space vision map that identified things like there should be one neighborhood park here, somewhere in Midtown, because there isn't any. And we want to protect 50 acres of farmland, maybe in this area, and 5 new miles of trails everywhere, somewhere. 10 new urban community gardens, 2,500 linear feet of storm corridor being restored, 60 acres of protected land in this space that we call the Rondo Uplands, which didn't have a name before, but we're just calling it the Rondo Uplands. 5,000 additional linear feet of public access on the Rondo Creek. 1,000 new trees should be planted. 500 acres should be protected in the Hudson Uplands, which is essentially Sojourner Truth State Park now. And 5,000 additional linear feet of public access on the Hudson. These were goals that NRI was adopted by the city, the open space plan was adopted by the city and annexed into the comprehensive plan, which means that the comprehensive plan, which is the guidance document for the city, now has this open space plan officially in it. And that means that any development that goes before the city should be complying with the open space plan. However, the open space plan is on a vision level. It's on a visioning level. So someone can't say, hey, is my parcel there? Is my land there? Whatever. Well, you know, what parcel are we looking at? You can say, well, generally, this is what we're thinking. So from there came the community preservation plan. This was also done by Behan Planning and Design and Upstate GIS. And the community preservation plan used prioritization criteria, just like the open space plan, and looked at every single parcel. Every single parcel in the city of Kingston got a score. And so the score is pros 1 to 30, and any single parcel that has color on this map has a score of at least 1. If it's white, it has 0 points. So the points are, again, based on things like, does it have a stream? Does it have forest cover? Does it have a wetland? Does it have, is it a park? Is it, we use a criteria of, is it within a quarter mile of a park? Does it have prime farm soils? All different criteria. In order to do that, when we did that, by doing this plan, we, by New York State Community Preservation Act, had to create this plan, adopt a law that adopts the plan, creates this advisory board, and establishes a fund. And if we do all of those 3 things, which we did, and all those 3 legislations that are in your packet, local law number 8, 9, and 10 of 2024, that then needed to go to referendum on the city level, so the city, the community needed to vote on whether they wanted to establish this real estate transfer tax, which is the fund, which would go into the fund, and such tax, which was adopted resoundingly, and some of you here were part of making that happen, so thank you, folks. That means that there is now an established fund that went into effect on December 15th of last year, such that every conveyance of property in the city of Kingston proper, not 12401, if we live in the town of Ulster in 12401, you are not considered part of Kingston, it's city of Kingston proper. Any conveyance of property that the fee that is exchanged, the transaction, is higher than the Ulster County median sales price, which changes every year. Right now, it's $376,500. That's the county level median sales price, which means it applies to us, applies to Hardenberg, it applies to town of Ulster, it applies to Saugerties. All the communities have to go by that $376,500. Any transaction higher than that, 1.25% of that, which was voted on by the council, common council, goes into this fund. This board has the task of advising the common council on what to do with it. The stipulations of that are that only the parcels in the city of Kingston that have at least a point are eligible. 30 points doesn't mean it's automatically a top priority. That could be a consideration that this board wants to consider, but all it needs to have is 1 point. And so, once it is determined that it has a point, the role of this advisory board is then to decide what parcels action should be taken on and advise that to the common council. There has to be a public hearing and then the common council will vote on it. On your, in local law number 8, which is in your packet, in section 188-1, it defines what can be done with this fund. So you can establish parks, nature preserves and recreational areas, preserve open space, preserve land of exceptional scenic value, preserve fresh and saltwater marshes or wetlands, preserve aquifer recharge areas, preserve undeveloped beachlands or shoreline, establish wildlife refuges for the purpose of maintaining native animal species diversity, including the protection of habitat essential to the recovery of rare, threatened, or endangered species, preserve unique or threatened ecological areas, preserve rivers or river areas and natural free-flowing condition, preserve forested land, preserve public access to lands for public use, including stream rights and waterways, preserve historic places and properties listed on the New York State Register of Historic Places and or protected under a historic, municipal historic preservation ordinance or law, undertake any of these purposes of this article in furtherance of the establishment of a green belt, preserve land which is predominantly viable agricultural land as defined in the ag and markets law, or unique or irreplaceable agricultural land, and this establishes the fund. Up to 10% of this, and this is under 188-3, 10% of this fund can be used for the management and stewardship of the land, not more than 10%. So this cannot be used for potholes, this cannot be used for housing, this cannot be used for sewers. If it's not on that list, it can't be used for it. If there's something that's like, we don't really know, then we will go to our lawyers and we will find out. Or if they don't know, we will go to the state's lawyers because they established the state act and we will find out. So there are exceptions to who has to pay into this fund. As I said, the fund was established on December 15th, 2024. It's called the real estate transfer tax. It applies to commercial and residential. And it is the buyer that is paying the tax. There are exemptions and let's see, I think that those are listed. Oh, on 188-13 in local law number 10. I'm not going to read them all, but basically like, if it's state land, if you're giving it to the UN, if it's city parcel, if it is going to be an open space easement, all these different things, they are not subject to the tax. Or if they're under $376,500, they're also not subject to the tax.
For the $376,500.
Yep. So the way that it works is that every time there's a transaction, the county, Ulster County, they have on their website the form that any conveyance, any seller and buyer need to fill out. So at every closing, this form has to be submitted. It either has to be submitted as I'm paying it or I'm exempt for this reason. And I didn't give you all a copy of that exemption, but if you go onto the county's website and look up Kingston Real Estate Transfer Tax, you will see it's really clear on the form that you like click a box if you're exempt for whatever reason. That if the tax is assessed, then it goes to the county puts it into an interest-bearing account, and at the end of the month, they send me and our comptroller a list of every transaction that happened that month. I did ask the mayor if this was public. He said it's spoilable, so it's public. And I said, like, I can just say so-and-so sold their house on this day, and this is how much they spent. And he said, technically, yes. I did not print these for you, but I can absolutely counter. I can email them to you if you want. Then it's spoilable. It's already spoilable. But just as a summary, if you look at this page that I put into your packet, these two pages, we'll start with this white one. By the way, does anyone have any questions so far? Or am I saying stuff you already all know?
Now, what's that percentage again, 1.2% you said?
1.25.
1.2.
Yeah.
Okay. Great, okay, thank you.
Yep, so every month I'm going to give you this. And this is going to be how much the fund has brought in so far. So if we're looking at this form here, Kingston real estate transfer tax, just as a reminder, 1.25%, it's the exemption per anything below that is exempt for the Ulster median sales price. By the way, that number changes on April 6th. So April 7th of this year, it's no longer gonna be 376,500. It's gonna be something else.
We don't know.
We don't know, I'm guessing it's gonna be higher. Just crazy, in my opinion. But it's a different world we live in than when I was born in this town, so. Right now, it's 376,500, but from 4/7/25 to 4/6/2026, it will be something else, and then that will change. It went into effect in December. Anyone who is already in contract for their closing, it did not, was exempt. So we're still in that sort of sweet spot where there were transactions that happened in January and February, that although they were over the amount, they were exempt because they were already in contract. So they basically were grandfathered in. So in December, there were none. It was only 15 days, everyone was basically already grandfathered in. In January, the fund raised $4,056.46, and in February, it raised $6,381.33. That is what is represented on this white page. On the blue page, I outline it more specifically. So in January, the total sales in the city were $13.7 million. Of that, it was 54 transactions. And again, I get a sheet that says that it details to me every single transaction. So I know the sequence number, who was the buyer, what date it was recorded, how much this transfer was for, if the tax was paid, what city it was, which is always ours, what book it is recorded in, and what page it's on. So just as a reference, in January, there were 54 transfers. By the way, this has all totally been like another language to me, so I've had an incredible learning curve of figuring this all out. But most transfers that happen, not most, a lot of transfers that happen are $0. So it's like, I want to give my kid the property. There's no transaction. There's no dollars transacted into it, right? So a lot of it is $0. But in this case, there were 54 transfers in January. 52 of them were exempt. So only 2 actual transactions were paid in January. That amounted to 3.7% of the total transfers were subject to this tax. The average, which is not really very representative because it was only 2, but the average of those 2 was $2,028. The total amount that we brought into the tax was $4,056.25. The interest on a county account brought in 21 cents. We then get the check and we put it into an interest-bearing account, but at that point, it was our first check, so there's no interest. And so our total revenue was $4,056.46. I took the liberty, and this board can decide if you want me to do this or not, but I took the liberty because it's the way New Paltz does it, of automatically separating out 10%. Because 10% can be used for management and stewardship. So just for tracking purposes, I said, okay, well, what would 10% be of that month? So 10% was 405, land acquisition. The rest was 3,600. Really, all of it could be used for whatever applies to those things I listed before, but technically 10% can be used for management and stewardship.
Can I ask, when you say 10%, is this yearly?
10% of whatever we have present in, it's technically 10% of whatever we have present in the account at any time.
Okay, can be used for management of all the properties that we have, okay.
Yep.
And that means it would be like paying a city worker to do something on the land, or what is that?
I want to have more conversations with what other communities do with their stewardship and management. I don't know if
Yeah,
anyone else.
so we, use the Red Hook CPF a lot, and I've used it to help fund trail work, to build new trails on our properties.
Okay,
For the South Carolina Watershed Community Group, we get received funding to do well testing for residents. So those are 2 projects.
and so you hire someone to do that and they're paid from this fund?
It was actually a match for a grant that we applied for, and it did help fund salary.
Okay,
And in February, you'll see sort of the same thing. We brought total sales were $11.9 million, 57 transfers, 53 of those were exempt, 4 transactions were paid. That amounted to 7% of the transfers were subject to the tax. The average of that was $1,500. Total amount brought in this month, or February, was $6,381.25. 8 cents interest was accrued. I don't know what amount of interest was accrued from the city. I have to still get that information. We just got this a couple days ago, so depending on when these meetings fall in the month, or however the cadence is, I may or may not have that interest. The revenue was $6,381.33, and 10% of that was $638. So all told, the fund has accrued $10,437.79 in 2.5 months. Well, 3 months, 2.5 months. This sits, we receive a check, as I mentioned, it sits in a dedicated fund here in the city. Nothing will happen to it unless this board makes a recommendation to the common council. The common council holds a public hearing. The public doesn't have an outcry. The common council approves it. And then my office would be directed to move forward with whatever the transaction would be, and we pull from that fund.
You said you'd be willing to reach out to other municipalities.
Yes, and I plan on doing that often.
And maybe we could talk about that, but we're getting our bearings here.
Yes,
So,
I'm also happy inviting them to somebody to a future meeting.
Would you be willing to do it within the next month to reach out to somebody?
Oh, yeah.
And we could talk about, you could lead that part of the discussion, about how they proceed, with each meeting, because, and especially at the very beginning, they didn't have a whole lot of money
Yep.
really to start to disperse, and how they approach that, because I'm curious about how that worked.
Sure.
How they got off the ground.
So do you want me to have someone come to our next meeting?
If they'd be willing to,
Great.
but if not, we could do a Zoom.
Yep.
Where you talk, I can get in on that Zoom. We can maybe pick their brains and then report back here to the board.
Yeah, that's fine, or I can invite them to a meeting and we could just popcorn out questions. What do people feel like?
I'd be interested to hear from someone directly.
Okay, so the person that I've been using as my informant person is Carol Lee. She's in New Paltz. She was and is instrumental in their whole process. But you are on the advisory board for Red Hook too, or not?
No, we just apply a lot for money.
Oh, okay, you apply to them for the money. That's it. Oh, that brings up another point, is that it is likely that the Kingston Land Trust will be part of some transactions in the future. It could be the case that the Local Valley Land Trust is, it could be the case that, probably not, and maybe probably not the Local Valley Land Trust is, but maybe the Northeast Cape Conservancy, or the county, or some organization that some of you are involved in. If that is the case, you will need to recuse yourself from those decisions.
From the discussion.
From the discussion.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it can't happen, you have to recuse yourself from the discussion and the decisions. Yes, so I will invite Carol Lee to our meeting, she's been very helpful. They do have a lawyer on retainer for their questions, we have lawyers here, but there's lots of resources kind of getting out. That's probably the dog and pony show that I was planning on giving. Are there questions to anything that I said?
I have a couple questions.
Yes. Go ahead.
One with the maintenance and stewardship fund.
Yep.
Is that going to only apply to properties that were purchased with the land acquisition fund, or is it going to apply also to currently existing city parks?
Ooh, I would say if the city park has a point, then it would apply. It could apply to any parcel that has a point. I think that did we include city parks? Some points.
Some towns don't have it.
I do not know the answer to that. That's a question we will ask.
And then my second question is with that, with the assessment and the point system and everything in this map, how frequently are we going to reassess things, especially in light of the DEC's updated wetlands regulations?
Yeah. Good question. So, first of all, there are more resources than, if you don't want to be like, oh, is this property part of this or not? On the back of this, and I didn't print these up, it's 125 pages, but on the last page of this, if you go to, Engage Kingston, you can get to the community preservation plan. There are two lists. One is every single parcel with its score sorted by parcel, and there's one that is every single parcel by score sorted by score. So you could say like, what parcel has the most points versus 0? And you could also search by one or one Wilson Avenue and see if my house has any points. So what was the question you just asked?
I was wondering if that scoring gets updated.
Oh, yeah,
with any regulations like the wetland.
Yeah, so, I think that we wrote somewhere in here how often we need to revisit it. But I don't remember offhand how often we said we would revisit. Kevin, do you remember? Is it some methodology?
I thought it was like in the law, every,
Oh, does it say in the law?
years, there's something specific about how often you have to redo the plan.
Okay,
But then
It's success.
if the new wetlands regulations mean that some property would now score higher, can somebody bring that to this board and say, we think we're underscored? Or do they have to wait 10 years?
My understanding is if they have a point, right, we can still look at it, so even if they have a point, we can still.
again, right, like there's nothing that says that 30 points is more about. Technically, for the resource value, there's more resources on the property, but that doesn't mean that has to be higher consideration for a 30-point site versus a 1-point site.
Right.
So, and that's something I want to get to as well, is that we all come to the table, you all come to the table with your own knowledge, skill, and agenda, right? We all do, that's why you join a board. And there will also be like hey, I know that there's a sale that might be going on, or we talked to this, I will bring information as well as a staff person. But this board will need to decide how you want to go about this, and maybe that's a value in bringing someone else in, is that like, do you want to sit and start reviewing the top 30, or do you want to see what's on the market, or do you want to do nothing because we have $10,000 and $10,000 won't do anything? I will just mention that the money can be used to pay back a bond, and we just bonded $420,000 to buy 70 acres of wilderness in the Wilbur area. So some would say you should probably pay that bond, because that was the largest acquisition of open space that will ever happen in the city of Kingston. And that's exactly what this fund should be used for. Certainly that happened as part of the discussions with convincing the common council that we should set aside some money, the community preservation land could be used to pay it back. But it could take a long time to make $440,000. I was told, and although it doesn't seem to be following that trajectory, I was told by the Ulster County clerk that had we had this in place last year, we would have raised over $1 million. I guess so far 2 months out of 12 though doesn't show that trajectory. Maybe this is, I have no idea how real estate happens in the city of Kingston, so maybe the rest of the year was like buying and selling and buying and selling, and right now we're not, I don't know. But so it's hard for me to project how how rapidly this fund will grow. But ultimately, how you all decide to spend the money and how you advise the common council to spend the money is up to what this board wants to do. And then basically, you can also be advising me to say, we want you to do more research into this property or like whatever. I believe that appraisals and surveys can be done used as part of this, but I have to figure out if that's part of the stewardship and management part. I don't think it is. I think it's part of the actual transaction fees, but, just some other things to think about. So,
Are we gonna entertain proposals? There's no application process here. I'm not sure it's ideal for a board like this. But people may be invited to give a proposal. And then if you like it, then we'll write up something. And then we have to think of a process about how, a project develops organically here, amongst ourselves. And how we'll go about it. Like because during the day, I can go and investigate a parcel and do the research and stuff like that. But it's something, I guess, after we hear from Cara, and give it more thought, we can think about how we'll do that. So we're more organized in how we develop projects and develop recommendations for those projects.
For the Red Hook one, we as the land trust come up with a project and then we apply to the fund.
Okay,
So we could also do it that way, have people apply,
like develop an application?
Yeah.
so they have an application.
Yeah, there's a whole process where we apply for money and we give them, a budget and why we're applying for it and the parcel of land that we're looking at putting an easement on or whatever the project is.
So can you share that application at the next meeting
Yes.
or before then?
Yeah, and I can share our, like what we have filled out as an example.
Great.
Are there rules around minimum balance that has to be maintained in this, or we can like blow it all and then
Yes,
start again?
the only thing that I know about is that if this happens to dissolve it for any reason, I don't know why that would happen, then it could be used to pay back bonds. I believe that's the only thing, or goes to the city, back into the city coffers, I guess. Where did it say that? Something about. Tax. I don't know where it is. I will have to look more. I do recommend that, although it's very legalese, that you read through all this to understand all three of these local laws. I don't have them memorized for sure, so. I can't remember what they did the money, but I don't recall hearing, seeing or knowing about anything that says like, you have to keep $6 in there.
Okay.
Have there been any participatory processes that have been, like the information having been gathered by the city around what neighborhoods want, what the people want? Do we have any information about that?
Each of the three plans in the NRI, the open space plan and the community preservation plan all had public engagement. So if you go on to kingston-ny.gov/NRI, you can find everything up to and through the open space plan. And if you go to Engage Kingston and then you go to community preservation plan, you'll see everything related to the community preservation plan. So like surveys,
Okay.
public meeting stuff, all that was there. But then the last time that would have been done would have been prior to February 9th, 2023. Other questions or clarification?
Municipal law 6S, I think that's our enabling legislation at the state level. People might want to take a look at that too.
Yeah, I should have
I
heard
think I
that.
had that pulled up. There it is. general municipal law, section 6S, community preservation funds.
And just as a reference, not every municipality in the state is eligible for this fund. We're actually in the minority of communities that are eligible for it. All those other communities that are trying to, but ours is one of the few. Excuse me. So I don't know how much, if you want to get into like what procedure will be or how you want to operate, or want to just decide on a meeting schedule and then digest all this information. You can also just do the briefs for a little while. I have no, just like as a, putting it out there, there's no like, we have to meet this often for this long. There are a number of community preservation advisory boards that meet bi-monthly, which means more than once a month. That's not common, if at all precedent, for any of the boards within the city. But that's just to say that there are other CPF boards that meet, like New Paltz, meets twice a month. But I don't know that they have a staff person that's doing work that their committee is all doing. And by the way, I'm not sitting here saying that you all are simply going to be advisory and then I'm going to do all the work. If you want to help to do any of the research or any of that stuff, I implore folks to help with that. Great, super, perfect. So that said, I don't have like this is how it's gonna be up to all of you, frankly, just to figure out how you want to operate this board.
I just hope for the next meeting, I just want to focus on how we'll forward ideas to the common council. So
That's
the
good.
agenda will be, Carly, she'll speak, we'll ask questions. We'll go over this application. So the question will be, how detailed will be the application? Are we taking an application just to hear a proposal, or we want a lot more? Because ultimately it has to come from us. We're not giving the application over to the common council. And then we got to talk about how we come together as a group to really focus in on a particular parcel or project. And then we'll go from there. That may take 2 meetings.
The only other thing that I feel like needs to walk away from this meeting is when the next meeting will be. How often folks want to meet and how long you want to meet for. And how often is more important than how long, and how long can just be however long it takes. But I do have to reserve the room for a certain amount of time. It does not have to be in the evening. It could be during the day. It should not be on the weekends.
I'm generally good. In the middle of April, those 2 middle weeks, I may be out on a farm and may not be able to get here. I have to wash up with Rick. But I'm generally, I'm good with this day here, like the 3rd week of the month. This is the 3rd week. I'm only speaking for myself.
Yeah, I will say this is the exact time that our board meets for Mount Trust, so ideally not, yeah.
Our board meets the third Wednesday. Well, it's quarterly now, so there will be some months that we won't.
Wednesdays are generally bad for me because I have other meetings and stuff. And then I'm on the Ulster County Trails Advisory Committee. So that is the 3rd Monday of the month that they meet.
What about the 4th Thursday?
What's Thursday?
4th, that would be,
Next week. But, yeah.
This will stop as of the middle of May, but I teach until 6 o'clock on Thursday, so it would have to be a little later. I don't know if that's good. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have that, but it'll end.
Right, the time is also flexible. There's no I think the lights actually go up at 11, but, and I'm usually done by 8:30, but just saying.
The first Wednesday of the month, that evening, the county planning board meeting evening. But
Sounds like
the last week of the month. It's good.
What about the 4th Monday?
Fourth Monday, that's. at this time.
Mondays are good for me.
Yeah.
Tend to leave Mondays open because I have to do stuff in the studio today. It's like everything that went wrong for the weekend, if you're managing property, you have to deal with it on Monday. Tuesday would work, I think.
You're teaching.
Till 6, so I could get here by 6:20. Ignore the students.
Which day is that?
On Tuesdays and Thursdays
Tuesdays
until
and Thursdays.
middle of May.
And then again in August.
No, I do not have that schedule in September.
Okay. So it would apply 2 more times.
Two more times.
2 more times. And it could change
So,
also.
So maybe a Friday,
Night?
Friday night, is that?
No.
No.
I'm like, you want me on Friday night?
I don't have anything going on.
Either during the day or.
Yeah, during the day.
I can,
Thursday's hard for me because this
Okay.
doesn't count as work.
Okay, okay.
Excuse me. Yeah, I was gonna say I can meet during the day, but
you meet during the day too.
So sorry.
It's okay.
It's fine.
I mean, I can do like early in the morning if you want to do like in the morning meeting.
What's early?
yeah.
It's not bad, get it out the way.
Can you have coffee yet?
I don't make any
You can bring or have it over for the lunch on the college. There's no limitation. We can't eat in that room or drink, but we could eat, drink whatever, not alcohol.
I could do that. 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
What day?
What day is it?
Well, I think we're talking about Friday and then it's like which week?
Because Mondays are out, right, Kevin?
I can do it sometime. Do you really want to do it on Monday? I mean, it's one of
No,
those
just-
times when you're
we're
doing the doodle poll if need be.
Monday morning at 8 a.m. I'll forget it. I'll forget.
Okay, Mondays are out, Wednesdays are out. Right? Wednesdays are out.
If it's in the morning, I can't do Wednesday evenings.
Oh, Wednesday
Morning I
is
can
in
do.
if it's in the morning.
Yes, I can.
Okay, so, well, let's first think, is there anyone who's like Wednesdays at 8 is, or any day of the week at 8 is not part of my one? Everyone's okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. That's also fine with me. And so we're not looking at Mondays, and we can, that means that there's basically 16 other options.
What about Wednesdays?
Sure, which Wednesday?
Which Wednesday would it be?
I'll do one have it sooner or later.
Well, let me just also put this out, that it would probably be better, I would suggest, if the meeting is once a month, that it happens after I get the allotment of how much money we have.
Okay.
Although I guess every month it would, I'd still be able to give you a new number, but like, it might be more exciting if we meet after. Well, I guess maybe it doesn't really matter.
April 6th.
Doesn't really matter, because I'll just tell you, like, if we meet on the 27th, it's fine, I'll just know for 3 weeks before you.
Wait, because when you get it?
I can share it with
When
you.
do you get it?
I got this, it was sent to us on the 10th, we got it on the 12th,
Of the previous month.
yes.
But you don't have Marches yet, even though it's after the 10th. Oh, no, because it would be April 10th. You would get Marches. Okay.
Yeah, I guess I was just thinking to myself, if it was right after that, then I would have the new information for the previous month. If it's before that, I wouldn't have.
So I just meet after April 10th and we'll know numbers from March.
Yes, what about the third Wednesday at 8 a.m.?
I'm going on that 16th. I'm so sorry. Yeah, that's spring break for all little ones.
I'm also away for spring break in April from the 15th to the 22nd.
What about the 23rd? Fourth month.
That's not climate smart, is it?
Yes,
Yes.
that would be early morning and late night.
Yeah.
Much.
No, okay, yeah, that work. So we're talking 8 a.m. on the fourth Wednesday.
Well, if everyone will look out like at least 3 months to make sure that that works for, we get warm for at least 3 months, if that, we're picking that. So that would be April 23rd. May 28th.
Unfortunately, I'm at a conference, scientific conference, sorry, on the 28th of May.
What about other folks?
Everyone.
I'm around.
Okay, I'll send you a Portland address.
It's likely I won't be around for June, though. What's that week?
June 25th.
I'll be-
Yeah, the National Speleological Society Convention is there, and I'm one of the organizers. So I will be.
Is there anyone else that can't do June 25th? Okay, so is that what y'all want to do? So far, it's working out. Okay, so we'll say that's by acclamation. So do you want to meet for an hour or an hour and a half? It's now been an hour and 10 minutes, and most of it was me just saying blah, blah, blah. An hour and a half, or an hour, or play by ear.
I feel like there's a lot of discussion that we need to do. Maybe an hour and a half is, I
Mhm.
don't know what people think.
I think an hour and a half as well. I think when we start discussing the merits of projects, we go over what we learned and stuff. That may not do justice.
It could also be 2 hours.
I don't know.
Well, then we're running into, I don't know, who has to report to work and so.
Well,
Oh, yeah, we
Yeah.
have to, yeah.
And occasionally, well, I mean, it's really flexible, it's fine. Also, that's the same day as the soccer meetings in the evening, so I have really long days, it's totally fine.
Oh, really?
Just the day.
I prefer to work at 9, so as long as I tell my employer, I'm doing work out in the community, arrange that, they can account for that.
Yep, then we say 1.5 and then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was
Adjust.
All right, so fourth Wednesday, 8 to 9:30, this could be reevaluated at any time. It could be changed often. It's not great for the public to know that it changes often, but for us, but the next 3 will do this.
I'll just say that I'll be away in August. Seems like everybody's got a lot.
Yeah. As long as we take turns.
Yeah, we will check in every month to make, one of the things we'll do on every agenda is see that we have form for the next one.
Oh, cool.
If we have to change it on a monthly basis, that's fine. So just moving through the rest of the agenda here, you'll see that I put on communications. So that means that if someone communicated to the city, meaning to my office or someone else within the city, as though a communication needed to get to this board, that's when I would bring up any communications. That's like formal communications about this board that came through the city. That's when they would be brought up. If anyone has any reports or updates, that's kind of an open time, and then we have to vote to adjourn the meeting. So somebody would make a motion to adjourn, we get a second discussion, all in favor, and then adjourn the meeting. That's when I end the recording. And then you can sit here and shoot the breeze as much as you want, but that's how the rest of the meeting goes. So is there any other business?
I can make the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second to adjourn.
All right, all in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous.
Nice job, Chair.
All right. 6